protectors of the Sunnah, Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
Ina alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Just to let you guys know, after this class, we have a special session with myself and Dr. Ibrahim Jamali. We will be speaking about polygamy in Islam. And that will be after this session, after this class. So inshallah, let's go ahead and get started with our series on belief in Allah. Yesterday, I kind of rushed it because I was trying to make sure I was done for someone else's lecture. And I want to make sure that you guys understood what I spoke about, because what I spoke about yesterday was very, very important. Yesterday, we spoke about how the only way that we can reform the Muslims of today is through the Quran and Sunnah. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. You know, we have a lot of Islamic speakers out there, and they use the sciences and arts and degrees, you know, but can they reform the people? So I did post a quiz up yesterday for everyone to look at. Let's put it up on the screen and let's see how well you guys can answer this quiz questions, because yesterday's lecture was very important. Very, very important. Okay, let's look at the first question from yesterday's lecture. First of all, this was a quiz on class number 8. This is the quiz on yesterday's class, which was class number 8. Let's look at the first question so I can see who all has been listening and paying attention. When dealing with people who do not believe in Allah, the way to address them is by using science and also getting them to look at the world around them as a means of trying to convince them of the existence of Allah. Since they don't believe in the Quran, since they don't believe in Allah, the best way to address people and call them to Islam is by using science and the world around them. Their personal life events and things like that. What do you guys say? Is this statement true or false? Raise your hands on Facebook. And if you don't, I already know who I'm going to call on. So everybody's going to answer. Let's start off with Sister Shamsa. Sister Shamsa, when dealing with people who do not believe in Allah, we should use science and the world around them as a means of convincing them to change, since what use would it be using the Quran because they don't believe in it? What do you say? Is that true or false, Shamsa?
False.
Can you explain why you say it's false?
I say it's false because, first of all, we shouldn't be even arguing or debating about the Islam. And if you already know they don't believe in it.
Argument. This isn't arguing. Say, for example, there's somebody in your family who doesn't believe in Allah, and you want to try to call. We're not arguing, guys. Remember, I'm not teaching you guys to argue with people because that's against Islam. I'm not going to teach y'all to do anything that's contrary to Islam. The question is, if you are dealing with someone who does not believe in Allah, you want to call them to Islam. Tell them about our religion. The way to call them is by using the world around them, their life events, the science, because they don't believe in Allah. They don't believe in the Quran. What do you say? This is not argumentation. I don't teach y'all to argue nothing. Go ahead, Shamsa.
Yeah, I still say false because we should use the methodology used in the Quran and the Sunnah instead of, like, you know, what's surrounded or the science.
Okay, good job. Anybody else has a different answer or another way of answering? Who else? Let's hold on. I'm trying to look on here and it's so hard for me to work. Okay, Sister Brother Tarek, Yasmin, go ahead. Let's hear your answer.
I agree with her. It's false. Even if these people do not believe in the Quran, we should still deal with them by sticking to the Quran and the authentic hadith to disprove them. We don't use science or the world around us to convince them to change, because these are things that can go against what Allah tells us about everything regarding the religion, and it also misguides the people and confuses them.
Okay, anybody has a different answer? MashaAllah, both of you are correct. This is false, guys. Even when we're dealing with people who don't believe in Islam, but you want to try to, call them. We don't use science. We don't use world events. Is that what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did? We still stick to the Quran as a means of calling them to belief, not anything else. Good job. Okay, let's look at the next question. So that was false. Good job. Let's look at the next question. How? Explain to me now, since the answer to the first question was false, how can the Quran be used to address people who don't believe in Allah? Because this is what the people who fall in that deviant group known as the Qadariya, and I think you guys can now recognize them. I hope that I know some of the sisters here can. A lot of these famous speakers that you guys listen to, that you think are upon the Quran and Sunnah, all they do is brag about their PhDs and college degrees. That's Qadariya. These are the people that think that they can use science and mathematics, to try to justify, belief in Allah. And this is the Dawah method that they use. They use psychology, the human psyche, the psychology. When the Prophet Muhammad is the psychologist for the Muslim, he already taught us how to have a happy marriage. He taught us how to raise our children. He taught us how to deal with problems in our lives. What can you tell me when you can't even guarantee that you don't have those problems? Okay, so the question here is, and this is a question of fiqh, which means you guys are going to have to elaborate. The question is, how can we use the Quran to address people who don't believe in Allah? Because these people will say we can't. You listen to a lot of these famous speakers in their lectures. They'll say, well, since they don't believe in Allah, it would be useless for us to use the Quran, as a strategy or a stratagem and trying to call them. You hear these women and men say that. I hear them all the time. I play their lectures at nighttime and I'm sitting here like, whoa, Qadariya. Whoa, they are rampant here in America. Most of these famous speakers are Qadariya. Oh my God. So how do you refute them? How do you refute them? This is what we talked about yesterday. I know I rushed the lecture yesterday, but this was in one of the most important lectures I gave. So if you come upon a Muslim who says, well, my sister, you have to understand that how can you use the Quran to call people to Allah when they don't believe in it? We have to use other stratagem. How would you come back at them? And let me tell you who I'm going to call on for this answer. Let's go back to the people that don't have. Sharmila. Sister Sharmila. How would you refute these people who say that you can't use the Quran to address people who don't believe in Allah, that it's useless? How would you respond to them, Sister Sharmila? Sister Sophia. Oh, welcome back, Sophia. We haven't seen you in a while. Sister Sophia, how would you address the people who say that the Quran cannot be used to call people who don't believe in it to Allah? How would you refute them, Sister Sophia? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Sister Sophia, go ahead. Try it again. Are you at work? If you at work, no.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, I'm at work, mashallah. I wasn't in your class yesterday, but I did listen to your class on YouTube. But how would I refute them?
Yeah, how can the Quran be used to address people who don't believe in Allah? Yes, go ahead. You know the answer, I know. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. I wasn't ready to answer the question, so I'm not really prepared.
Don't worry about it. If you at work too, I don't want you to get in trouble. Okay, we'll come back to her. She's at work. I forgot
Okay.
I didn't know you were here. It's good to see you back, sweetie. Welcome back.
Mashallah.
Yeah, she's working for the U.S. Post Office. You keep it going.
Subhanallah. Mashallah.
Okay, Sister Rockmo. Sister Rockmo, help her out. She can't talk really good. She's at work. She works for the U.S. Post Office, so she got to be careful. Rockmo, how can the Quran be used, to address people who don't believe in Allah? How can we use the Quran to call the people to Islam? Go ahead, Rockmo. I bet your brother could answer. Yusef could answer. Precious, let's hear from you, Precious. Precious. Where's Precious? I mean, in Fresno. Y'all know I'm being kind about that waiting room. Umi Barrow, how can we use the Quran to call people who do not believe in Allah to Islam? Because these other people say that we can't, that we have to turn to science. We have to turn to the human psyche. We have to turn to other sources as a means of getting people to believe in Allah and to recognize the omnipotence of Allah. We can't use the Quran because they don't believe in it. How would you respond to that, Umi Barrow? Y'all see I'm going all the way up from the bottom to the top.
Hello.
Who was that? Which one was that? Is that Umi? Umi Barrow? Okay, go ahead.
Not Umi Barrow. That's Umi's daughter.
Oh, that's Umi Barrow's daughter. You got an answer for us?
And son.
And her son. Go ahead, give us an answer, because the kids always know. Yeah, go ahead and tell them, how can we use the Quran to address people who don't believe in Allah? Tell them the answer, baby.
I think we could teach them, but I don't think so.
Yes, you can, but tell them how. Give these adults an example as to how we can use the Quran.
Wait, I think we're supposed to tell one another so they can pass the answer around.
There you go. Hello. We pass the information around to the others. And what information are we passing around? We're passing around what the Quran holds. So how do we call people who do not believe in Allah to Allah using the Quran? We share. See how the children know? We share the information that's in the Quran with them. Y'all couldn't think of that, the rest of y'all? And what type of information does the Quran contain that can be shared? Precious, Muslima, Muna. The children always know. It's the adults. Muslima, what information does the Quran contain that you can share with the unbelievers as a means of opening up their heart and their minds to Allah? The children started it off. You adults should be able to take it from there. Go ahead, Muslima. What type of information does the Quran contain? You learned this from Dr. Asim. What is it that the Quran contains, Muslima? What type of information?
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving. I think the miracles, we can share the miracles with them. That's something that they can kind of relate to, is like the miracles that are in the Quran. And yeah, that's what I think of.
Yeah, for one thing, we can share the miracles that Allah mentions in the Quran with them. As a means of, their law speaks about many miracles. She ain't gave us an example one, but what miracle? Precious, y'all got to come in depth. Y'all should know these answers. Sister Muslima, go ahead. What kind of miracles or whatever? What is it that the Quran contains that can be shared with people who don't believe in Allah as a means of call? What did the Prophet do? What did he share with the people to convince them to believe in Allah? Come on, y'all. Wake up.
One of the miracles, you guys sit down, please buckle up. One of the miracles is that no one can copy the Quran. No one can what was it? No one can write anything like the Quran. Like oh my gosh. It's that hadith I'm trying to think of. I think when I think it was the prophet or somebody asked somebody to try to write something. Oh, what was the hadith?
Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Precious.
Okay,
let me try this. Let's see. Let's move up. I don't understand why y'all can't get this. Muna, what answer you have? Muna?
Yes.
What is it about the Quran? What is it that the Quran contains that can be shared with people who don't believe in Allah as a means of calling them to believe in him?
As for women, I feel like you can, you can share, Prophet at his time, he was sharing verses to rebuke the way women were treated during that time. And that at that time, that convinced a lot of women to want to convert to Islam because they were seeing that the rules that were written in the Quran were catering to them and providing them with a better lifestyle. So you can, the Quran talks about the way of life, a better way of life, and how to live your life in a sufficient manner. It has health issues, it has family issues, it has a lot of issues that people want to solve.
Okay, now that's a good answer. What does the Quran contain? It contains the rights. There's so many verses in the Quran that speaks about the rights of women, how women are to be treated, how women are to be revered, respected. So this is something that can appeal to a person that doesn't believe in Allah, especially if it's a female who's had a hard life. We don't have to go to the human psyche. Allah addresses, the trials, the tribulations that man has imposed upon himself and others. And Allah, for example, addresses how downtrodden women were at one time, and how here now Allah has elevated women and raised them up to be equal to men, emotionally, spiritually. So you can, to speak of the rights of women, speak of the rights of orphans, speak of the rights that the slaves had, that Islam gave the slaves. And this is a way of opening up the mind and the hearts of people who don't believe in Allah. Good job, Muna. Finally, a good answer. Meliun, what's another way in which we can use the Quran, to call people to Allah who don't believe in him? Give another example as to how the Quran can be used to call people. Because these other people will say that, well, you can't use the Quran because they don't believe in Allah. So it's just best to deal with the human psyche. That's what psychologists and philosophers say. Kyra, you have an answer? Kyra, do you have an answer? Khadijah, go ahead and share with us, Khadijah. Khadijah, what's another way? Go ahead.
I was going to say that Quran is like a written guideline of our lives. So if you have a question on a certain topic, you can definitely find it in there. Some things you don't have to be confused about. It's just culturally, it has changed over time. But say you're just reverted, if you need an answer to something, it's in there.
Exactly. The Quran answers all questions. Man doesn't have the answer to everything. Whereas we talked about when we deal with psychologists and philosophers, any questions you have about how to find happiness in life, or what is your purpose in life, their answers are going to be based on their environment. Their answers are going to be based on their culture. But Allah gives you the definitive answer. He tells us what our purpose is in life. He tells us why we were created. He tells us what the ultimate goal will be for us, what the ultimate goal will contain for us. You know, the human can't give us these type of answers. They can just give us mere opinions. They can give us mere opinions, but the Quran contains all answers. As she said, the guidance, the guidelines to how to have live in this world, you know, contentful. Good job, Sister Khadija. See, this is not hard to answer. Okay, anybody else with any other answers? Anyone else with any other answers? Good job. Fatima, go ahead. Was that Fatima's hand up? Somebody got their hand up. Hold on, I'm trying to look up.
It was me.
Oh,
I
Aisha,
was
go ahead.
I was gonna say, just like you say, the Quran also shows us about Allah and His attributes. It tells us more stuff. Like, it tells us how there's gonna be good news for the believers, the promise of paradise. And it tells us the warning for the disbelievers. And it tells us many things, like everyone said. It's like our way of life, how we're supposed to pray. It has every like, and it also have like evidence of like certain prophets and people. So it's like many things we could like that has like actual thing that's happening now, like how there's earthquakes gonna happen, how the time will go fast. So there's so many things that's already happening that was already in the Quran that's happening now.
And this is exactly, mashallah, beautiful answer. This is how we refute those people. When you listen to some of these famous speakers who y'all think are scholars, I was playing them last night here in the Zoom room. Oh my God. And about 3 of them were saying that, nowadays we have to go to other means and other methods of trying to call the people to Allah, because the people are lost. The people don't believe in Allah. They don't believe in the Quran. They think that we're terrorists. This is what the brother was saying. Y'all know who he is. Y'all who is here listening. Famous, very famous. He said, so now we're going to have, it's a little different. Giving dawah today is different than it was when the prophet gave it. Astaghfirullah. How dare he say that? The giving dawah today is no different. In fact, it's no different than how the prophet called to people who didn't believe in Allah at all, who worshiped idols. He called people who worshiped idols. The most people today claim to believe in God and Jesus. It's easier to call them than it's easier to call a pagan. It's easier to call a Christian or a Jew to Islam than it is to call a pagan. But this brother sat there, and this lecture that I played on the website last night, and he sat there and said, so this is why we have to resort to other means. Now I see why Kareem Abu-Zayd wrote a book about him. When I listened to that brother's lectures last night, I was in awe. I said, this is why Kareem Abu-Zayd wrote a book on his brother. How dare you? And this is what happens when they go and get these PhDs in philosophy and stuff. They change. It changes you. You no longer think Quran wa Sunnah. Instead, you're thinking of the human psyche and the science of things. I said, this is what Kareem Abu-Zayd was talking about. That brother sat there in a lecture and said it. I was shocked. I played it twice on my website last night. Okay. Anybody else like to comment? Yes, Nisa.
Alhamdulillah. I would also say that those persons that they're coming from the Qadri, as you stated, so that means they have involved themselves in a lot of information. I would say to them, the Quran is the only book that you're actually having a personal conversation between you and Allah. He addresses all of us, the hypocrite, the disbeliever, the believer, the faithful, the Muslim, the non-Muslims, the atheist. He addresses everybody. And he also challenges us. He tells us, anyone who can write an ayat or chapter like you see in this book, do it. He says, do it and bring it to me. I will authenticate it for you, but surely you cannot. I've said that to people, so I'm doing
exactly. Good job, Anissa. Yes, go ahead, Sister Sharmila. Welcome to Sunnahfollowers too, Sharmila. Alhamdulillah. It's good to finally hear your voice. Let's hear it.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi barakatuhu.
I'm sorry I couldn't get my microphone to work before because I had to ask my daughter how to unmute
It's
it.
okay.
Okay, I think a lot of times when human beings cannot comprehend what Allah says in the Quran, we look for other reason and other means. But if we all just make dua and beg Allah for bless you the understanding with it, then Allah will hopefully, guide you if He think that's good for you. Because a lot of people ask for guidance and they don't want to change. And
Exactly.
most of the time, these people, they if they cannot understand something with reason, they just they just leave it all together because they cannot comprehend what Allah is saying. But we have to constantly make dua to Allah so Allah can bless us with the understanding of it. A lot of times we don't know that. They just feel because they have all this education and all this knowledge, they feel that this should lead them to the understanding. But there's a lot of times there's some things in the Quran we don't understand without the blessing of Allah to bless we with the understanding of it. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, that she's got it, that she hit it all on the nail right there. And she even keyed in on what you guys we were talking about yesterday. Plus, they don't want to change. Like she said, you got to want to change. People can read the Quran 24 hours a day, but if you don't want to change the condition of yourself, if you do not want to reform yourself, then you're not going to. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. But if a person, like she said, is sincere, and they ask Allah and they're asking Allah to guide them, Allah tells us in the Quran that He will do that. If we take that one step toward Him, He will come a fathom towards us. And when He sees that you're sincere and trying to change and reform yourself, Allah will give you that guidance you need. He will open up your heart, open up your mind. MashaAllah, Shamila, it's so good to hear from you, and you are an extremely intelligent woman. May Allah bless you with the best of this world and the hereafter. Ameen. We need you here. Stay on Sunnahfollowers in our Zoom room. We need more women like you in here. If she hit it right on the nose, guys. Subhanallah, what happened with Khalid bin Walid? What happened with Abu Sufyan? These people didn't listen. They were enemies in the beginning of Islam. But then when they started to listen and they wanted to change, Allah guided them to that. Look at Abu Sufyan. He became one of the greatest, ambassadors of this religion after he converted. Subhanallah. So it's all about, like she said, wanting to reform yourself, wanting to change, and asking Allah, like she said, making dua, asking Allah to guide you to that. She hit it on the nose. That's how you answer here at Sunnahfollowers. Yes, go ahead, Sister Barrow.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I guess some of the student has already touched what I wanted to say. It's like the Quran contain about story that has happened before, and He has the future in the present, how Allah has dealt with people who disobey Him and did not believe in Him, and how He will deal with them in this world if they do so and in the hereafter. So He has the present, the future. He has everything that a human being needs to strive to be amongst the people of Jannah, inshallah.
Exactly, on the nose. That's it, guys. It's not hard to answer these questions. For the young kids in here, all you guys have to do is just answer from your heart, be sincere, come on, don't make this religion harder than it is. This is common sense. The Quran is 1/3 history. We know that. History of what happened to the people that came before us, the problems they had, the mistakes they made, so we don't make them. Then it's 1/3, about Allah, His names, His attributes, telling us about Him. And then the other third is lesson guidance, laws, rules. So how dare people say that they can't use the Quran, as a means, of calling people who don't believe in Allah to it? Good job. Y'all answered that question better than ever. Good job. And the kids got it started. Ain't that something? It always begins with the children. So let's look at the next question. This is another thing we talked about yesterday. Since the Quran is in Arabic and most people do not speak or understand Arabic, then Islam teaches and allows for us to make things clear to them using what we perceive to be helpful in this day and age. Is this statement true, or is this statement false? And explain why. Who would like to tackle this one? Who would like to start with us off with this one? Tony, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say false, because if the people don't understand or speak Arabic, that don't mean that we use other methods that we think to be helpful, because it then becomes an obligation for the person that's presenting the Quran to learn the language that's mostly spoken by the people, so that he can convey the message of Allah only, and not man's take and not our take on the Quran. And we put people in touch with the Quran, and we put them in touch with the truth, and we explain to them how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did during his time to the people. So now they won't have an excuse as to why they're an unbeliever, because they chose to be an unbeliever. They know the truth.
MashaAllah. Exactly, guys. You know, and we hear this all the time. When I was playing the lectures here at night, you listen to some of these speakers in the Zoom room when I'm playing them at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning when other people sleep. But those of us in here, we listen and we hear them say, these famous speakers, these famous muftis, these famous sheikhs, these famous imams, they'll get on there and they'll say, you know, the Quran is revealed in Arabic, and most of the population here on earth doesn't speak it, you know, and they can't comprehend it. Even when they read the transliteration of the meaning, they're still not understanding clearly what Allah is saying. So what we're going to have to do is find other means to try to call the people and get the Muslims to understand what Allah is saying. So we have to look into the human psyche. How many of y'all heard that at nighttime from a lot of these famous speakers? There you go. Well, let me give y'all a good example of how that's hogwash. Look at Layla, your teacher. I do not speak Arabic, but I know my religion better than a lot who do. I gotta have a whole family. My family, my father's people are Arabs, Egyptian. They speak Arabic fluently. Many of them don't understand that Quran better than me, because look at how they practicing, drinking, partying, politicking, whatever. And hello, I'm a good example. Who said you got to understand Arabic to understand the Quran? No, the responsibility lies on you people who do understand Arabic to learn the language of the people, like my teachers did. Learn how to speak English. And then it falls upon you to convey that information to us, like Sheikh Morsi did to Layla Nashiba. Hello, the meaning of those hadiths. That's why I can break them all down to you. And that's why I can explain that Quran and its true meaning to you. You know, so we can't use this Arabic, not speaking Arabic, as an excuse. I don't speak Arabic. I speak English. But I know my deen better than most who do speak Arabic. Good job on that. You learn the language of the people and convey it to them. Farsi, Salman al-Farsi. He wrote the first, did you guys know this? Salman al-Farsi wrote the first Quran in the transliteration of the meaning. He wrote the Quran in Persian, in Farsi, okay? He was the first person to take the Quran, and because he memorized it by heart, and he wrote it in the language of his people so they could understand the meaning of it. And he became a scholar of it. Then we had others come out of Persia. You remember the Hadith? All those others came out of Persia, like Imam Bukhari. Imam Bukhari was not an Arab. By the way, Imam Bukhari was not an Arab. He was Persian. Hello. So this is hogwash. When you hear these men say that, go ahead, Aisha, contribute. Let's put that put it back up. Go ahead, Aisha, explain.
Yeah, just like she's hold up, let me turn this off. Okay. Yes. What I was gonna say, just like this, Tony said, it is your obligation as the person who, who's teaching the Quran to know their language because, like, people, like you said, do not expect people to learn your language, and people also, it's not gonna steer their heart if you're speaking a different language. Just like how when I'm trying to explain something, like my teachers, when they're trying to explain something, they're not going to be speaking a different language like French or something to convey a certain thing to me. Instead, they speak English to me to convey it because they know that that's the language I speak, and it's going to make me learn more if you're speaking in English. And it's also like, there was many evidence in the Quran, of all the prophets, how they also conveyed the message in their own language. And we can see that because not all prophets were, they didn't speak Arabic. So that's also one thing I take, that was the evidence back then that I would tell people, so it's just best if you want to make someone understand something, the meaning of it, learn their language, and that's how you're gonna get their responses.
Exactly. So, exactly. You can't say that. We can't use, most people don't speak Arabic as a means to say that it's hard, to convey the truth to them. So we have to resort to other means. This is garbage. And this is what the four Imams said. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah said. This is what the companions said when they were fighting against the Qadariya, who, after Ibn Sina, who came up with this crap. The Ibn Sina movement, where they came up with science, you're getting PhDs in science, and, a lot of Arabs today, a lot of people of the Arabic people are Qadariya. Those Arabic people that put all this emphasis on having college degrees. I'm talking about PhDs in psychology and PhDs in philosophy. These are Qadariyas, These are the people that the companions fought against. These are the people that the four Imams fought against. These are the people that Ibn Taymiyyah and them fought against. You want to take your knowledge of science and do what the Jews did, and try to take the words of Allah, change the meaning of them, think that you can provide a better meaning for our existence. One thing that Ibn Sina could never answer is how the world was created. He couldn't answer that. Well, Allah tells us how the world was created. But they asked Ibn Sina, how can you use science to explain how the world was created? One thing that the Qadariya can't say is what our purpose is. Why are we here? Why are we created? Ibn Sina and his movement, these psychologists and these philosophers of today who call themselves Muslims, you ask them, why were you created? These people are lost. They're unhappy. Their lives are in shams. They can't find happiness, but they tell you they can find happiness for you. Most of them have mental issues, psychological issues. Most of them suffer with all kind of sicknesses of the mind because they deviate away from what Islam teaches. Our purpose, we were created to worship Allah. That's the purpose we're here. We're here on this earth for one purpose. Allah tells us to worship him. That's our purpose. When you deviate from that understanding, then you end up like a lot of these Muslims who have these PhDs in psychology. They're messed up. There's some unhappy, miserable people in real life. They sit on the internet trying to make a living. And they rely on you to come and complain to them about your problems. Because as long as they focus on you, it keeps the focus off of how miserable and wretched their life is. Don't fall for that scam. The companions fought against this crap. The four Imams fought against this crap. Ibn Taymiyyah and Layla Nashiba fights against it too. Hello. All right. Any other comments on that? So exactly, guys, when we use Arabic as they don't speak Arabic, so because the people don't speak Arabic, we have to resort to other means, Back in the Prophet's days, for example, we're going to be speaking about polygamy. I want you guys to listen. If you ever get a chance, listen to what these Arabic men and women who have PhDs in psychology and PhDs in philosophy and sociology, boy, they will try to rationalize how polygamy is bad. It was a thing of the past, and they'll make up excuses as to why it existed in the past, excuses that totally contradict what the Quran says. You know, these people are sick. We're going to talk about that today at 7 o'clock. Dr. Jamali will be here at 7. That's our special lecture on polygamy. But you hear these psychologists, these Muslim psychologists, these Muslim philosophers, you know, they try to make unlawful the things that Allah made lawful, like polygamy and stuff, because on the human psychic, you know, it's impossible in the human psychic for a woman to share her husband. It's impossible? Who told you that? Women been sharing men since Allah made Eve. Oh, the women, the 90% of the people suffer. Where's your statistics coming from? Because I can show you how 90% of the people I know ain't suffering. So, you know, be careful of these people. You know, this is why the 4 imams fought against this Islamic theology, and I'm fighting against it too. Okay, so this is false. Let's look at the next question. So what is wrong with using what we perceive to be helpful in reforming the Ummah instead of the Quran? Whenever we deviate away from the Quran, in other words, and use our own opinions and our own suggestions as to how to reform, what are the dangers of it? Can anybody talk about it? All of you should be. What are the dangers of deviating away from the Quran and the Sunnah and replacing them with our own opinions and our own theories as to how we can reform as a ummah, as a nation? What's the dangers of doing that? Anyone who will start us off, go ahead.
It leads people to innovations because they've deviated from the navigation system for us, which is the Noble Quran and the authentic Hadith. So it creates a lot of confusion amongst the Ummah, increasing innovations and the likes. Yeah.
MashaAllah, the number 2 answers. Number 1, it leads to innovation. That's why a lot of these famous speakers with these PhDs in psychology and philosophy, you listen to them, they're Qadariya, they're innovators. They're innovators. Also, it leads to confusion amongst them and the nation. We got people confused. We got people confused and questioning Allah's laws, questioning Allah's rules, questioning the Prophet Muhammad's actions. Well, why did the Prophet Muhammad marry all these women if it's something that messes up the human psyche? Why did he have all these wives? You know, if 90% of the women end up unhappy, the children broken. Well, why did all the companions do this? Why is it that the imams had more than one wife? It leads to confusion, doubt, question. What else? Anyone else? Go ahead, take the mic. Anyone else want to share?
Yes. Along with the confusion, it will turn a lot of people, they will apostate. They will come out of the religion because they don't, hey, this isn't for me. I don't understand what you're saying here. It just don't sound right because they don't have the truth inside of them to begin with. And when they're telling people, oh, you know, you can't understand this because you don't know the language. Oh, no, we don't know the language. You don't know the language. You don't know how to explain it to us. You don't know how to tell us the right thing. So therefore, we're going to stay even more confused. And I'm going to leave this religion because I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I'm just not going to do this. Yeah.
And we have a high apostasy rate. If you look in the Muslim countries and Muslim lands, it's a high apostasy rate. A lot of those children are born Muslim, but are they practicing Islam? You go to the Muslim lands, they're doing the same thing that the Kafirs are doing. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, same thing. Confusion, questioning, doubting what you claim to be true. So anytime we deviate away from the Quran and Sunnah, it's going to lead to a lot of problems. Yes, go ahead, Brother Ahmad.
Since it's a human views, it changes time to time. It can't be forever. like Quran.
Yeah, he was saying that the Quran never changes. Is that what you were saying? The Quran is forever. Exactly. The laws and rules never change. The Quran is for all time, guys. You know, Allah knows his creation better than we know ourselves. Man doesn't even know his purpose. Allah told us what our purpose is. He created us. And he gave us the guidelines and rules for our betterment, and they don't change. How dare you say, you know, that some of the laws and rules of Allah are bad or have changed? You know, that shows the hypocrisy in your heart. Again, we don't call these people kafir. These people that belong to this Islamic so-called scholastic, what's the name they have? Scholastic theology, Islamic scholastic theology. It began with Ibn Sina, and it still is real abundant today, the Qadarians. Okay? We don't call these people kafir. We just call them misguided, sinful Muslims. And they really need to check themselves. They would have did better going to school to be a nurse. That's what they should have did. Went to school to become a nurse where they could do something good, you know, and make good money to provide their families, because psychologists don't make no money here in America, and a philosopher ain't got nothing coming. Maybe a job in the library, putting books away, maybe, you know, no money. You should have been a nurse and stuck to the Quran and Sunnah and learned your deen. Exactly. Good answers. Go ahead, Sister Meleon.
I was gonna say they would end up like adopting like the mentality of like Musaylima, where they just like, you know, find certain things that they don't like about the religion, so they reduce it or like add or subtract, because they hate it. They hate Allah, obviously, and then they'll end up like recruiting other people to turn against the people of the truth because they know it's only a handful anyways.
And that's what we see today. You know, you listen to a person like Layla Nashiba teaching true Islam. You listen to a person like Abu Usama breaking it down. You listen to a person like Kareem Abu Zayd breaking it down. You listen to somebody like Sheikh Ali. You listen to somebody like Sheikh Morsi. Okay, and they can't stand us. Oh, these people they're extremists. They're Salafi. They're extremists. They're Salafi. They're Salafi extremists. No. You're Qadariya, you're Qadariya, you're Qadariya. You traded Islam for psychology and philosophy degrees. You're really miserable and unhappy with yourself because you lost your purpose in life. You forgot your purpose. You lost your guidance. Okay? You get off on other people's problems, on hearing their problems to make you think that you're superior over them. You're the one lost, not us. Because we're maintaining what the Prophet ﷺ came with. We're maintaining what those companions taught. We're maintaining what those four imams taught. We're maintaining what Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim and them taught. You're the one that deviated away from the truth. All right, mashallah, you guys did very good on this quiz. I'm very proud of you. And like I said, I gave it because I know I had to rush through yesterday's lecture, because I thought Jamali was coming in, but he's going to come in tonight. In fact, he should be popping in any minute, Jamali. And we're going to do this special discussion that you sisters and brothers wanted to hear on polygamy. So what I'm going to do tomorrow with this class, I started it off letting you guys know the belief or an ideologies that contradict the correct Aqidah. And a lot of you have been waking up. Now you guys see why people are basing their lives on psychology degrees, which are nothing, and philosophy, because these people belong to the deviant group known as the Qadariya. They've been this is how they are. They're losers. And they always end up on their deathbed wishing that they could go back and change, you know, living their lives that way. You know, so now that I've taught you about the different belief systems that are in practice today that contradict the correct Aqidah, tomorrow I'm going to go into what the correct belief system consists of. And we're going to talk about the first principle of the correct belief system. So like I said, I'm teaching this series differently. I had to wake you guys up and let you guys see that most of these people y'all listen to, Most of the people you're in contact with are not upon a correct aqidah. I'm going to teach you what the correct aqidah is starting tomorrow. So right now, what we're going to do, subhanakallahumma bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Let me stop that recording.